Well, thanks for joining us tonight. We're entering some of the biggest travel days of the year, and in a few minutes, Jamie will explain why you shouldn't have too much to worry about with snow and ice on the roads. But first, because of this weather, if you're in search of ice to fish on, you're going to have to travel even farther. But emergency managers in Beltrami County beg of you, if you're planning to fly north to fish, use an airport. This was the scene at Upper Red Lake yesterday. Fortunately, we're told the pilot and their passenger are doing fine, but they are in a bit of hot water. And speaking of hot water, this is the second big rescue this week. So today, I talked to an expert up north about what's happening and what they want anglers to keep in mind.
At a time when the Twin Cities is still full of open water, those angling for some ice to fish on have been traveling north at their own risk.
Initially, it was reported that the plane had went down on Upper Red Lake. We had deputies respond.
Beltrami County Sheriff Jason Riggs says those deputies discovered that the 72-year-old pilot actually landed successfully, but due to a lack of snow, couldn't stop before hitting a patch of dangerously thin ice.
The pilot and his passenger got wet, but no injuries.
Pretty lucky.
Very lucky, yep.
They were just trying to land on the lake. It wasn't an emergency situation.
Correct. They were coming up to Angle. They were going to land on the lake. They might have been looking at, the reports that there was 10 inches of ice up there and thought that that would be, more than enough to sustain the weight of the plane. And it probably was where they had landed initially, but with the inability to stop, who knows? It's a guessing game.
Guessing correctly has always been tricky early in the season on Upper Red Lake.
We have some people on the other side of the water hole, guys. We are going to get to you. This blew open with the south wind.
Last November, more than 200 anglers required rescue after a massive ice sheet broke away. But this year, it's even more unpredictable, even later.
There's no rhyme or reason to where you're going to find good, thick ice.
And even if you find it on Upper Red, it can still break away. Rescue teams had to use an airboat to navigate roughly 100 feet of broken ice and open water to reach 35 anglers stuck on an otherwise thick sheet a few days ago.
How are people gauging that or figuring out where to go?
The resorts are posting, what ice conditions are like, what the depths are. And the resorts are actually doing a really good job this year limiting what traffic is going out.
For example, Rogers on Red posted yesterday that they're allowing ATVs and snowmobiles out of its access point, but limiting fishing to daylight hours.
The ice is never 100% safe.
Which is why the DNR doesn't post ice-in dates in real time on its website. And if you do choose to go, they say it's critical to bring the right equipment, especially a life jacket or float coat.
And bring ice picks out with you. So if you fall through, these could save your life.
I would just encourage people to let people know where you're going, where you intend to fish. So if there are problems, you can be more readily located. Don't rely specifically on your phone to get you out of a jam. If it gets wet, it might not work.
And if your equipment ends up stranded on the ice, it is your responsibility to retrieve it.
It's probably going to cost them a significant amount of money to get the plane off of the lake now. In addition to that, I'm certain that the FAA will take some type of action with what had happened.
Now again, the unpredictability here goes far beyond Upper Red Lake, of course. Sheriff Riggs says Cass Lake still has open water, and that means many resorts from there down to Mille Lacs Lake are waiting until after Christmas and might even have to wait until after New Year's to open. And Jamie, you're going to join us now to kind of get into this a little bit more, but especially with those big lakes, we're not just talking about temperatures you got to be watching out for.
Yeah, I mean, the wave action and the winds, first of all, if anything breaks free, those winds are going to start to push that and you're going to drift away, and then pretty soon you're on your own remote little ice island. But that wave action is also going to help break that ice from time to time, especially when it's not completely frozen over. It's kind of a double-edged sword that we have right now. We have no snow on the ground for most of the area, which would be great for freezing those lakes, but we can't keep the temperatures below freezing for very long. We get them in the overnight hours, but then during the day, the temperatures are rising. This is back and forth that we have. So if we could get the temperatures down, we would see better ice.
Seeing ice, by the way, this is a satellite image.
Yep, this was taken just, I believe, on Monday, showing Red Lake, so you can see that there is plenty of ice out there. But as far as those thin spots and wave action and the wind shift, and the cracks, all of that right now just does not play well for people to be out on the ice, or at least, if you're on that thicker spot. We just heard from the sheriff there that, upwards of 8-10 inches, which is good. But again, there are those thin spots out there, and then that wave action will prevent it from getting that good solid freeze.
What are the temperatures looking like across the state? I mean, I know we've talked about warm-ups down here. Is that kind of the same all the way around?
It is going to be all across the region. We're going to be talking about temperatures that will remain well above average right through the next week to 2 weeks, the way things look right now. So that means northern Minnesota likely is just going to hold on to temperatures that climb into those 30s, maybe even the low 40s as we get closer to Christmas, because we might hit 50 around here.
All right, you're going to have more on the weather coming up a little bit later on. We'll get into that travel forecast.
Oh,